Under the oak tree. Unfortunately, the rain began to subside in the evening, and by dawn, it had ceased. Maxi squinted at the bright morning sun. She tried to rise, but her limbs gave way as if her bones had evaporated. When she groaned quietly at the dull ache, a large hand began to stroke the length of her back. "Go back to sleep." He had woken up before her and was already dressed and fully armored. Her heart sank. "Are you leaving today?" "We leave at noon. First, we have to prepare weapons and rations for the journey." He lifted her chin and tenderly kissed her swollen lips. "I'll come and see you before I leave, so go back to sleep." He kissed her hand and walked out of the room. The door closed behind him. Maxi stared at the door and blinked, feeling a wave of emptiness sweep through her. She rose from the bed with shaky steps and instructed the maidservant to draw her a bath. She was wide awake. "My lady, your bath is ready." When the servants left the room, Maxi stood in front of the mirror and gingerly unwrapped her towel. She stared at the bright-eyed, pink-complexioned woman in the mirror. Could she be the same person as the pale, morose girl with slumped shoulders? "I've brought you a dress, my lady. Come in." The maidservant entered the room and dressed her with practiced hands. Maxi found herself clothed in a beautiful dress rippled with green and gold, a golden belt fastened around her waist. Before her hair had had a chance to dry, she tied it up with a ribbon and hurriedly left the room. Sunbeams streamed through the open windows and warmed her face. Maxi skipped down the stairs, breathing in air that still bore the refreshing scent of rain. Riftan had said that he would see her before he left, but she worried that he would forget his promise. "Good morning, my lady." Rodrigo bowed his head when he noticed Maxi. The servants swept the floors and aired out the hall for the first time since the rains had stopped, and Rodrigo supervised them with hawk-like eyes. "Breakfast is served, my lady. Would you like to have it in the dining hall?" "No, I can eat later. I wanted to see Riftan. I mean, Lord Calypso. The Lord is at the training grounds with the knights." She was about to leave the hall when she stopped in her tracks. What would she do once she found him? She would only get in his way. Seeing her hesitate before the door, Rodrigo approached her. "My lady, if I may." Rodrigo cleared his throat before continuing. "Could I trouble you to inform the Lord that lunch is ready?" "Certainly," Maxi exclaimed. "Thank you, my lady." Overjoyed to be given an excuse to see Riftan, Maxi rushed out without gracing Rodrigo with a proper reply. The gentle autumn breeze felt cool against her tense body. She glanced up at the pale sun before walking past the pavilion and down the stairs. The vast training grounds were surrounded by tall, thick walls. There, knights in silver armor stood in orderly lines before Riftan. Maxi halted in her tracks. They seemed to be in the middle of a serious discussion. "No. All knights who participated in the Dragon campaign must attend the celebration. The honor must be shared equally." Ruth sighed from Riftan's side as he watched Heberon and Ricardo glare at each other. "Sir Riftan is right. No knight who fought in the campaign should miss the celebration. Sir Oberon, Sir Sabrique, and the sentries will be here to guard Anatol as always. I plan to stay behind as well." "What are you talking about? You played a crucial role in the battle as sorcerer. You must go with us. Fame and heroism do not become me, and my presence in the capital will create unnecessary friction with the court sorcerers. Have you forgotten that I am an outcast among my peers for leaving the Mage Tower without permission?" The sorcerer shrugged as though the incident were trivial, and the knights rolled their eyes. After listening to the exchange in silence, Riftan said, "It would certainly ease my mind if you stayed." "That was always my intention," replied Ruth with another shrug. Riftan held his head high and turned toward the knights. "It's decided, then. We leave as soon as preparations are complete. We'll take the route that I just explained." The knights touched their fists to their chests before lowering them again. The gesture seemed to be the customed salute of their order. Maxi, who had been waiting in the back, noticed the discussion drawing to a close and quietly approached Riftan. He turned around with a puzzled expression. "I told you to take more rest. Is something wrong?" "No. It was time for me to rise." She stepped toward Riftan, pretending not to notice the knights stealing glances at her. Riftan looked worried. "Rodrigo said that lunch is ready," she said shyly, feeling her chest tighten. "So, I came to tell you." Riftan looked toward the sky to gauge the time by the angle of the sun. He turned toward the knights and called out, "Let us eat first." Maxi peeked at Riftan's dashing figure standing tall under the bright sun. Dressed in silver armor and a navy blue tunic, he looked like a magnificent hero who had just strolled out of a temple mural. Maxi understood why his subjects called him the incarnation of Waigru, the legendary knight who had ascended to the heavens. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," she answered, hastily fixing her eyes on the ground. "You looked like you were in pain the last time we did it." Her face burned as if it had caught fire. "I feel fine." "It'd be nice if you'd say that in bed as well," he said, frowning. "Tell me it's fine when I ask for more." "You shouldn't say such." Maxi looked around, afraid that someone had overheard them. The knights, however, were far ahead of them. She quickly regained her composure and gave Riftan a stern look. "You shouldn't say such things. What if someone hears?" "So, what if someone hears?" She wanted to say that others might think of them as shameless and debauched. Riftan, who had been watching her impassively, he drew her toward him by the waist. "Oh, my sweet, innocent lady," rubbed his lips against hers. She shuddered at the coldness of the armor that she felt through her clothes. Just below her ears, her pulse quickened. "Don't make it so hard to leave." Maxi gazed up at him with quivering eyes, suppressing the urge to ask whether he would truly miss her and whether she could accompany him. Had she not been afraid that she would irritate him and thereby shatter this sweet moment, she would have begged him to bring her with him. Reining back her emotions, she tried to speak with poise. "We should hurry to lunch. You need to eat." "Yes, let's go." He set her down, his excitement seemingly diminished. Repressing the desire to cling to him, Maxi made her way to the dining hall. The knights exited the hall after lunch and mounted their horses. Maxi went out to the courtyard to send Riftan off, a retinue of servants trailing closely behind her. Riftan, elegantly balanced atop a black stallion, slowly turned his horse around to look at her. "I'll be back soon. Please be careful." Her murmur was almost unintelligible, but he smiled. He leaned so far out of his saddle to stroke her face that she feared he would fall off. Though she could feel the servants' eyes on them, she did not refuse his touch. She stood on the tips of her toes to receive Riftan's kiss. Their lips touched lightly before locking together, and he gently pushed his tongue into her mouth to explore its corners. "It's nice to hear those words. I'll be back soon. I'll be waiting." He sat up straight and led his horse to the front of the party as if nothing had occurred. The knights passed through the gates and crossed the moat in single file. As the long train of men passed below, the sentries on the walls blew their copals. The rich sound of the horns reverberated through the air, forming a discordant ensemble with the clopping of hooves. Maxi stood rooted to the spot long after the knights and their horses had disappeared over the horizon. "He has changed a lot. That's the first time I've heard the Lord say he'd return as he's leaving. It's all thanks to you, my lady." In truth, Anatol was a forsaken land. We were able to have these sturdy walls and live in peace only after Lord Riftan came. Lord Riftan has always worked hard to rebuild Anatol. He protected the villagers from monsters and built the castle walls with his own money. But he would always leave without saying when he would return. And we'd always worry that he might not, and so rarely sent word. Since your arrival, I think the Lord has started to truly think of Anatol as home. Home. There are no words to express how grateful we are to have you, my lady. Do I deserve to hear such words? I haven't done anything for Riftan. If they find out just how useless I am, even Riftan and everyone else here could turn against me like father. Then, to be cast aside again would be. After Riftan's departure, Maxi fell ill and was confined to her bed for 2 days. The fatigue accumulated from the flurry of activity of the previous days washed over her. The maidservants attended to her with herbal soup and cooled her fever with damp towels. Thanks to their devoted care, her condition had improved by the time she awoke the next day. She asked Luddies to draw her a bath, expecting that she would feel refreshed after washing off her sweat. She was not yet fully recovered, but the fever had broken. A day of light exercise and consuming nourishing food would surely restore her strength. She put on her newly tailored dress and draped a thick shawl over her shoulders before stepping out into the garden. There, she was surprised by the chill of the wind. The temperature had dropped markedly in just a few days. Noticing her astonishment, Luddies smiled. The days grow cold when the autumn rains have passed. It feels like it's almost winter. Anatol's winters are mild compared to other regions, perhaps because we're close to the southern sea. It rarely snows even in midwinter, and when it does, we only get flurries. Maxi could not hide her slight disappointment. Because her father's lands were located in the warm southeastern regions, she had never seen a proper snowfall. She had heard that Drakium, the capital of Whedon, habitually saw enough snowfall to cover the entire continent. She wondered whether it would be snowing by the time Riftan reached the capital. This really is my home now. Maxi took in Calyp's castle with fresh eyes. She thought back to her solitary life at the Croiso castle. Imagining the new experiences that awaited her, she felt her heart contract with hope. But leaving Croiso castle had not transformed her into a different person. She still had a stutter, and Riftan would one day realize that she was foolish and useless. Then, everything would change. The thought of losing his affection made her blood freeze. It was possible that he might even turn into someone like her father. "My lady, are you feeling unwell?" Luddies seemed to have noticed her agitation. Maxi tried to shake off her doubts. "I'm fine. I'd like to have a warm cup of tea." "I'll prepare it at once, my lady." "I'll change. I'll become a proper lady of the castle who rift and can depend on." Maxi turned around, trying to collect herself. Maxi headed straight to the library with the receipt from Audeiron in hand. There, she attempted to record the transaction in her ledger with the help of accounting books. By the time she had made a list of purchased items and their cost in clumsy imitation of Rodrigo's records, it was dark outside. I said I'd think about it, but maybe Audeiron was right. But is it really okay for me to spend so much money? It's as if all that time spent studying in the library was pointless. I'm no good at figures, and there are too many units of money. Should I ask Rodrigo for help? Dirham, dinar, dant? No. If I do, he might think I'm incompetent and look down on me. But I've never even seen a coin before, much less bought anything. If he finds out that I don't know anything. Recording the workers' wages alone took her many hours. She was sighing deeply when she heard a rustle. She whipped around to see a man emerging from a pile of books in the corner. Ruth. Ruth scratched his light gray hair and gave her a bleary-eyed look. Maxi stared back blankly, unsure of how to react. He appeared to be sitting atop a collection of precious books. How long had he been there? "Why has there been so much commotion lately?" complained Ruth. unperturbed by the fact that the lady of the castle had caught him sleeping on the library floor. "We're refurbishing the castle." "Yes, I know about the castle, but I was asking about you, Lady Calypse." "Me? You've been groaning and muttering to yourself in the library for days. Are you aware that you were disrupting my sleep